Section number 1 of The Life of Harriot Stuart. This is a Librivox recording. All Librivox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit Librivox.org. Recording by Luke Castle. The Life of Harriot Stuart by Charlotte Lennox. Section number 1. Introduction. The Life of Harriot Stuart, written by herself, presents a complex and problematic view of self-creation in the 18th century. Within the novel, there is a consistently reoccurring theme of self-invention through fiction, which is echoed by the author's own use of the novel to shape her identity. Published in December of 1750, Harriot Stuart gained critical praise as a successor of Richardson's Clarissa, and by 1752, Charlotte Lennox had become a protégé of Johnson. Lennox's second novel reflects the influences of men like Richardson and Johnson. Their individual styles and commitments to moral and social education are evident in the arguments and plot of the Female Quixote. Despite these associations with the didactic tradition, Harriot Stuart resembles only to its superficial. Only Harriet makes gestures towards repentance and acknowledgments of her faults. The work of the novel is not to redeem Harriet's country through marriage, but rather allow her to control her own identity through the manipulation of language as both coquette and narrator. As coquette, Harriet Stuart uses the language of courtship to manipulate the perceptions of her male admirers. The objects of the male gaze, traditionally considered to be a passive role, is a site of empowerment for the coquette, as she uses it to create and recreate herself in society's eyes. As a narrator, Harriet uses the telling of her courtship as a vehicle of self-invention. In controlling the telling of her own history, she is in effect reconstructing her identity. Lennox, who arrived in London in 1742 with no recorded past, also engages in the self-narration as author. The history that Lennox claims for herself parallels that of Harriet Stuart, whose fictional autobiography was accepted with Lennox's explicit consent as the author's own. The implications of Lennox's choice as an American autobiography raises two questions. First, exactly what was American-ness in 1750, and what did it represent to Lennox specifically? Second, how did this American quality manifest itself within Harriet Stuart as both fiction and autobiography? This particularly ambiguous relationship between author and narrator and heroine in The Life of Harriot Stuart complicates the reader's impersonation of Harriet's character and lifestyle, along with the implications of Harriet's invention of her identity as coquette and historian, are those of Lennox's own self-invention, as author through genre, gender, and geography. End of Section 1. Introduction. The Life of Harriet Stuart by Charlotte Lennox.
Section 2 of The Life of Harriet Stuart. This is a Librivox recording. All Librivox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit Librivox.org. The Life of Harriet Stuart by Charlotte Lennox. Section 2, Volume 1, Part 1. You ask me, my dear Amanda, to give you the relation of my life. Your request has always the force of a command with me, and I obey you, notwithstanding the affliction the remembrance of my past misfortunes raises in my soul. You know my family is noble. My father added to the advantage of an illustrious extraction a greatness of soul and regular behavior which gained him the respect and esteem of all who conversed with him. His father, who was vice-treasurer of Ireland, and commanded a troop of horse in King Charles II's reign, died when he was yet an infant, and his eldest brother, being destined for the Church, was, in the reign of King William, made chaplain-general and judge-advocate of the fleet. My father, whose inclinations led him to the army, purchased a commission in a regiment commanded by a near relation, and, some time after, rising to the command of a company, he married a lady of a considerable family in Ireland, with whom he was so passionately in love as to take her without the consent of her relations, by which means he forfeited all right to her fortune, which, however, was far from being considerable. Of all the children my mother...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?